Welcome to the Ortelia Space Builder tutorial. In this tutorial what we're looking at is using Space Builder to create a theatre space. Okay, but before we go ahead and do that, let's have a quick look around the software itself. So there's three main areas to the software. There's the file menus, the main work area here, which I'm currently zooming in and out of using my mouse wheel. And then over here we have the build panel. Now this is a floating panel, and this is the panel that we use to do all of our creation. Under the file menu we have new for a new design, open existing space, save that space, save it as a different name, exit the application. Under here we have simply undo and redo, and the shortcuts for those are Control Z and Control Y. Under the View menu, we effectively have Plan View and Preview, which is our 3D view, and we'll look at that in a moment. And then we have a standard Help menu. Okay, over here we have the Build panel. The Build panel is where we access all the tools we need to build the space. And there's the external shape, which is effectively what you have to create first. The Walls tab, which allows you to build and insert walls, which we're going to actually use as stages. Our tools menu is for loading plans, so I've just clicked the load plans here and we have the load plan image come up. So we'll have a look at that in a moment. And then we have insert, so you can actually insert into walls, you can insert windows, doorways, you can put a hole, you can do a fixed door, etc., and you can set up the parameters for those. Okay, so let's start off with importing a plan. Okay, so here we have the Load Plans button. We click that and it brings up a load plan image. A plans window where we set the scale and we set which particular plan we want to use. So what I'm now going to do is click on Load Plan, and then I'll navigate to the folder where my plan image is and select it. And there it is. So this is a plan of a theatre space. Now what you need when you bring in a plan is some indication of scale. So we're quite fortunate here, we have a scale bar. So what I'm now going to do is click Set Scale, and you'll note that depending on how I move this, you can see the gallery in the background. So I'm going to set the starting point for my scale there to there, and that is a distance of 500 centimeters. Okay. And that's all you need to do. So here's our space now, and I've just zoomed out using the middle mouse button. So the first thing we want to do is to create the space to put our stage inside. So we go to our external shape, we click the Add Space button, and note that we now have a space cursor on the end of our mouse pointer, and I'll click my first point here. I'll drag this across to here, down to there, and then hit enter to finish, and you'll note that what it's done is automatically put in a floor covering. So we're going to change that and make it a fairly dark one because it's going to be a theatre. And there it is. Now just so that we can see what this is looking like in 3D, we can either go to the tools menu and switch to preview mode, or we can press Control plus P, and that puts us into the space. So here we are in the space we've just created, and as you can see, it's just a box. Okay, so Control P again. Now, what we're going to do in this case is we need to put a stage in here. But before we do that, actually, what I'd like to do is go back to the external shape and note that our ceiling height is only 3 meters. So what we're going to do is select that external shape and set our ceiling height to closer to 6 meters. And let's just go back into our space now and see how that looks. And there you go, we have a much higher ceiling, much more indicative of what it'd be like in this theatre space. Alright, so I'm now going to go to the Walls tab, and what I'm going to do is create a wall, but I'm only going to make it 60 centimeters high, and I'm going to give it a specific width. So the first thing I do is I basically say create, and the wall at this point doesn't have to be from any particular point to any particular point. What we want to do is put it in place effectively and set it up, and hit enter to finish. Now our wall is currently 300 centimeters high, so if we were to go back into the 3D space, there's our wall. What we really want to do is make this wall only 60 centimeters high, which is going to be indicative of the height of the stage. So go back into our top-down view, and what we're going to do is make the width of the wall 300. So what I'm now going to do is select that and drag it over so that it intersects the back wall, and I'm going to drag the ends up so that they meld in with the walls on the side. So there we have it. Once again, let's go back into our preview mode, and we can see that that's been set up. Okay. Now what I want to do is, you note that we have some inserts here where the stairs would go and an additional section of wall. So I'm going to create another wall, and note that it's taken on the default width of, and hit enter, default width of the previous one. So we're now going to step this one down to 120. So first of all, I've got to highlight it, of course, and make it 120. Okay. So again, dragging this in and plonking it against the already constructed stage, and what we'll do is drag it down a little bit more. So there we have that. Let's pop back in and have a look and see how that looks. Now, even though we can walk through this wall in Space Builder, when we import this into Ortelia Set Designer, what will happen is that we won't be able to get up onto the stage. So what we need to do is put in at least one step. And the process for doing that is exactly the same effectively as what we've just done to create the stage. So we'll pop back into the top view and we'll create another wall. Now note this wall is 120 wide, so let's just go ahead and say that we're going to make it 30 centimeters wide. So of course we have to highlight it, 30 centimeters wide, and we'll make it a height of 30 centimeters high, which is about halfway up. So depending on the height of the stage, you may need to make several steps. Okay, so here we are, we've got that set up. Now before we put it in place, let's just go and have a look in our preview mode so we can see there's the step and it is lower than the stage. Alright, so all we have to now do is take this and drag it in to meet the rear wall and the wall next to it as well. So there we have it, and we'll drop that in there. Let's go and have a look and see how that turned out. So there is our step. So when you bring this into Ortelia Set Designer, you will be able to walk up onto the stage and move around. Now, at this stage, what I'd be inclined to do is to darken our walls to be indicative of a theatre space. So what I'm going to do is select a wall, and I'll give it a fairly dark grey colour, and I'll save that colour so that I can then go ahead and select other walls and paint them. Now unfortunately you can't paint the ceiling, but you'll note when we bring it into Set Designer that that's not actually much of an issue. Now let's do the same with these other walls and give them a dark color. And there's our space. Now of course, if you want to, you could have put in a set of stairs over here as well, so you could access the stage from both sides. And effectively there is a theatre space. Now what I'm going to do is save this, and then we'll load it in Set Designer and see how it looks. So I'll go File, Save As, and then I'll give it a name. Okay, here we are in Space Builder now. So what we're going to do is go File, Load Space, and then we're going to click Import, because we haven't saved the hall that we made, or the theatre that we made, in the default theatre folder, which is under the Program file folders. So click on Import, select the file, and click Open. And here is the space that we created originally with the high ceilings and the dark color on all of the facing walls. Now here we are, and we can walk up to our stairs and walk up the stairs and go onto the stage. Now you can use this space exactly the same as any other space in Set Designer. So of course we can go to the lights and bring down our ambient lighting, and then create a light, and you can put in the lighting rig as we talked about earlier, or you can just attach directly to the ceiling and use your lights as you see fit. attach them. The same goes for props. So I'll just throw in a quick prop as well to illustrate the point. So quick props, and let's say go with the bench seat. And there it is up on the stage. So that's all that's involved in creating your own theatre space to use in Set Designer.